All right, on this episode of Bouts Talking Bouts, happy to be talking with an individual who has a big fight going at Bellator 233. It is happening on November the 8th, a welterweight bout between Antonio Jones and Kyle Crutchmer. And I've got him on the program today to talk a little bit about that. How's it going there, Kyle?
Good, sir. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, and just, from the top, wanted to wish you some congratulations and everything. I noticed there's a baby girl on the way, so that's great, man. Big news.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. We're very excited. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to imagine you're also excited about the big debut here and everything like that, and just all the hype, going into it and everything like that. Like I'm seeing Ariel Helwani talking about how you've had, multiple opponent switches leading up to this one. Like this is the third opponent they've had for your debut here. How does it feel to finally have an opponent locked down and to kind of like just get ready to go out there and do your thing?
Oh man, since I've been fighting, I've had this happen pretty much every fight. My very first fight, I did. There was like 8 opponent switches, and the guy that I was fought ended up being the day before. I had to bump up to 187 pounds to fight him, so I'm kind of used to it by now. It can be a pain in the ass, but I'm just excited, man. I'm excited to do this. I'm excited to start my career with Bellator. I'm excited to make some money. I'm excited to get to showcase my skill and try to become a world champ.
Absolutely. And this opponent you have here, 10 fight veteran and everything like that. I'm kind of wondering, have you gotten a chance to, check out tape on your opponent? Is that something you kind of like allocate to like your coaches and stuff like that and you focus on your own preparations? Like where are you at on that?
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely watched film on him. Yeah, he has 10 fights, and that can be whatever you take it as. I spar 3 days a week for the past 2.5 years, so I have a lot of fights under my belt too. They're just not in the cage against somebody else. So I really truly don't look at that too much. I just I see the guy, I train for the guy I'm fighting, and I have the best coaches in the world, and we just get prepared to go. And then whoever we end up fighting, that's who we'll train for. So.
Yeah, for sure. I was just more so saying kind of like, seasoned opponent, like good guy to, have for the debut. I think it would be a good opportunity for you to, showcase the skills that you have there.
Yeah, for sure. He has a couple of weaknesses that I've seen, and we're going to do our best to exploit them. And I mean, it's definitely not some Joe Schmo. He's had a couple fights, but we're ready, man. We train for him, and we kind of have a little bit of a game plan, and we'll keep critiquing things. But other than that, man, yeah, I'm just excited to get out there and get this thing going.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've been doing quite well so far. The 75% finishing rate, some striking and submission-based stoppages across the 4 total wins and everything. But I've been also noticing that you're, training at AKA and everything like that. And it seems like Daniel Cormier has really, taken you under his wing and stuff like that, and like a mentorship kind of role to some degree. How invaluable has it been to have a guy like Daniel Cormier in your corner to kind of like help you navigate the game, not just on a technique level, but on presumably multiple different levels too?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much having the best fighter of all time as your big brother. And he succeeds in every aspect of the MMA world and outside the MMA world. So, I see a guy who has so much, going for him, and, the way he treats his family and the way he treats us guys, and how he takes care of us and shows us the way, and shows us, everything about this sport, and he's credible, and it's been a very humbling experience. It's been very fun. It's been very exciting. I wouldn't ask to have anybody else be there for me. So, yeah, I mean, that's my big bro right there. So.
And I'm also noticing you're a 2-time All-American from Oklahoma State University. How much, like, on a work ethic level did that, guide you towards MMA? Because I imagine the work ethic you get from having that kind of amateur wrestling pedigree lends itself to maybe like a quicker learning curve with like some of the submission grappling and some of the striking stuff, just with the nose to the grindstone sort of work ethic. Is that kind of an on point sort of assessment? Like, have you noticed that as well as you learn some of the other skills in MMA?
Yeah, I'm resilient with how when I'm working out. I do 3 or 4 different trainings a day. I'm used to a hard grind. I wrestled for the greatest wrestler of all time with John Smith, and you don't become the greatest wrestler of all time, sitting around. So the work ethic that he instilled in me, the same with Daniel Cormier. It's I don't think there's anybody else out there that could build someone into something like this. So. Yeah, man, I'm in the gym all day, every day. I'm just trying to, learn everything. I like learning. I like trying things. And, now I have some of the greatest coaches in the world also, steering me in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. But I was also reading an article about you, and it was saying that you only had like the one win in your first year in wrestling, and that you weren't necessarily that good, and you were kind of angry all the time. What do you think, was there like an epiphany sort of moment? Was there like a moment you started noticing your fortunes were, more in your favor? Like, was there any kind of like moment like that?
Yeah, actually, I remember that day everything started clicking. So my first year I won 1 match, and then my second year I ended up winning junior high, not junior high state. I ended up winning a state tournament in Oklahoma, and I beat a kid who won the Trinity, which is like the top thing you can do as a kid in the finals. But man, my dad was just very consistent. He had people helping me at all times. One day we sat after practice and we did this motion drill, and I started hitting a shot on this like dummy bag thing, and ever since then, man, it just kind of all started clicking. I was just really motivated. I was a very motivated kid. I always saw myself as a pro athlete in something. I didn't know what, but my motivation and the grind that I've endured my whole life, having the right people around me has set this up very nicely.
And it seems like you played some other sports prior to that, like football and baseball and stuff like that. When did MMA start getting on your radar as something that you wanted to endeavor to do?
Well, yeah, I played football and baseball and all those things. But I got in a lot of street fights growing up. I was kind of one of those kids that if you had a problem with one of my friends or something, I would just fight you.
Yeah.
So I've kind of always been that kind of guy. But really, when I started really wanting to do it, I watched Johny Hendricks when I was in high school, and I forgot, UFC card, and we had a bunch of my buddies over, and on the wrestling team, we just kind of watched it, and they were all like, man, you should do this, you should do this, and then it kind of just put that thought in my head, and then for the next 5 or 6 years, I kind of just started really, really enjoying it. And like I said, I was in so many street fights, even through college, so it just kind of became a thing for me, so.
Yeah, and the martial arts thing gives you like a vehicle to, get that sort of energy out you'd get in a street fight, but to get it out in like a more productive sort of way, right?
Yeah, it was way more productive. A lot less hassle. So.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And seems like the learning curve is, definitely there. Like it seems like you're, improving leaps and bounds between fights and stuff like that. But we're talking about, Daniel Cormier and everything like that. Who are some of the other guys you're getting in some work with, like in terms of like regular sparring partners and, just people you train with there?
So at the beginning of my camp, I was sparring with Habib and Islam. They're both Russian guys. They come over for their camps. And then I went from them to Ed Ruth. And then I had another Russian kickboxer that I've been sparring with too. So I've had great partners. I mean, if you go look at Habib's and Islam's and Ed Ruth's pedigree, you can see the guys that I'm in there sparring. And there's only one way to get better, and that's fight the best dudes in the world, and that's what I have. So, yeah, I mean, there's just not a lot of guys that are gonna fight me like Habib and like Ed Ruth. So I'm a lot more confident than I was. I've learned a lot, and now I know what I'm capable of doing and the things like that. I think the biggest thing that I've got from this camp is just a lot more confidence in this stuff.
That's interesting. Was there like an early period like where like maybe certain things weren't panning out as you wanted them to, and it created some sort of frustration? Like where does this like certain sense of like, additional confidence in your technique come from?
There was never doubt. I never doubted it. I never thought that this wasn't going to work out. I got so good at the sport of wrestling that it was like it kind of hit me that I had to start over in a way. And, it was just frustrating at first. But the confidence comes from, you see, like I said, Daniel Cormier winning big fights, and he has the same coaches that I have. And then you get into a cage with arguably one of the best fighters ever with Habib, and, I'm able to go 2 or 3 rounds of him. And then, from there I go with Ed Ruth, who's a killer in Bellator right now. He's probably my top training partner. And, yeah, man, you just go from not knowing a lot to being able to hang with those guys, and then when you start hanging with those guys, that's when your confidence starts kind of going through the roof. So,
absolutely, man, just a great facility to be at, but interesting division with like how welterweight is now, just on the heels of like the dust settling from the Grand Prix and all that. I'm kind of wondering, like, do you have any express goals for 2020 as far as like amount of fights you'd like, maybe certain caliber of opponent you want? Is there anything for the new year that you've like framed as an express goal?
Man, honestly, I let my management team kind of settle all that. They put guys in the right direction forever. I have the same guys as DC, so whatever they tell me to do, I'll prepare and get ready for. I kind of there's somewhere on my radar that I'd like to fight at some point next year, but I don't know if that'll happen. So we'll see. I gotta win a couple fights and then let everybody know that I'm here to stay, and then that's when I'll start kind of road mapping things out.
Absolutely, gotta assert yourself in the debut and all that. But usually when I have fighters on, I tend to ask like if they're big into like training to music. Like I know some fighters kind of like to replicate the conditions of fight night, but some like to put on certain genres, and they've got go-to artists for like hard training sessions. So where are you at on like music when you're training?
Man, I'm kind of listening to some real gangster ass music right now.
Oh, yeah.
I listen to like Mozzie and guys like that. But like before a fight, I really truly don't listen to much music. When I was in college, I was a freshman. I had my headphones in, listening to music, warming up like I normally do, and one of my coaches, old school guy, ripped the headphones out of my ear, and he told me, "You don't need your headphones. You need to be able to hear this crowd and get ready for it." So ever since then, I never truly wore headphones or listen to music before I do things. I like to hear the noises. I like to hear the crowd. I like to hear, everything. So when I'm training, it's a little different. I like to have a little more fun. But when it's game time, everything I'm just trying to hear what I'm about to be a part of.
So you're kind of one of those fighters that like before your fight, you kind of like to get out there maybe a little bit, like do a lap or two, get a sense of like the crowd dynamic and everything like that. Like, do you think you're going to be doing that for this November 8th fight here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the structure or anything about what happens, but if I'm able to step out and hear and move around out there, I'll definitely am one of those guys. I like to be a part of that stuff. Yeah, it just So the first time I take my headphones out, I don't hear some people freak out, but I like to. I just want to be a part of it, man. I want to be a part of the whole night. Whatever's happening, I want to be in there. I want to feel the electricity. I want to feel all of that, and I feed off that stuff too. So.
Absolutely, man. But you've been really great with your time. Is there anything you want to add as a parting thought as we're kind of wrapping up here, though?
Man, honestly, no. I appreciate you guys talking to me, and I'm ready to get this thing going. November 8th, get your tickets.
Yeah, it was great getting to talk, man. And people can check out this great welterweight fight on the prelim portion of Bellator 233. We've got Antonio Jones taking on the much talked about prospect Kyle Crutchmer, and just a debut I'm very much anticipating too. So best of luck with the rest of your preparations there, man, and hopefully you enjoy the rest of your night as well.
Thank you, man. Happy Halloween.